I better put my headphones in. All right. Think I'm close here. Okay. Hello, we're trying to get people into the meeting here.
Okay.
Let's see. All right, by my count, we have about 8 of us. Maybe not everybody's in yet. Let's see here.
Sorry.
David's here, good,
I was
okay.
like muted and I couldn't see anybody. And
Yeah, I was
Right.
trying to let people in from the waiting room, which I guess I have to do, so
exactly.
that's working so far.
You're up to 8 people, as you said earlier.
All right, that's more than we often have at these meetings, so that's good to know.
I see we have Barbara's iPhone tonight. Welcome, Barbara's iPhone.
Hi. I don't know why there's no picture.
Oh yeah, Barbara, you mentioned you were having some trouble with the video. Well, at least we can hear you.
Yeah. And I can see you.
That's good. That's very good.
Best way, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
All
I
right.
don't know about the best way, but
Well, let's see. So I think there's no one waiting in the waiting room, and it's 7:01, so I guess we can get going here. Most of us have probably been in one of these meetings before, but I think we have at least one new member. Allison, I believe. Hello.
Hello.
Is our new member. And so since we don't have that many, I think we might as well just kind of go around and, introduce ourselves again. I'll just start. I'm Bob Dealing. I've been chairing this committee for a few years now. And welcome everybody who, is here. Welcome to our new member, Allison. Maybe Allison, you go next. I'll just say that I've been involved since the start of the committee, as have a couple of other people here, maybe. So we'll see. But please go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I'm Allison Wheeler Bob. I live over on Linian Avenue between Chesapeake and Davenport. So we're enjoying a lot of road work these days.
Oh yes.
Water line replacements.
Lots of early morning opportunities for barking. That's how my dogs see it. But we've been here for about 5 years, and in this neighborhood 15 years. Before that, we were in Tacoma Park.
Oh, great.
So,
Well, welcome. And
thank you.
I think I sent you information about the committee, but feel free to just jump in and participate. So.
Well, thank you. It seems like there's a lot going on.
There is.
All right.
Let's see, who's next? How about you, David?
So I'm Dave Christille. I'm the ANC 3F01 commissioner, which is essentially west of Connecticut and south of UDC or south of Yuma, all the way to the border, which is Rodman, and it goes all the way a little bit to Wisconsin Avenue. And I've been the commissioner since April of 2020, so coming upon my 1-year anniversary, and I'm also the chair this year. And as Bob and I think Kathy and some of you know, I'm pretty interested in transportation issues, so I'm glad to kind of work with you, and I guess Allison, for you as a bit of a kind of background, we see the committees as places to really kind of chew on issues and kind of get into more of the details, and then hopefully you guys do some really good work and you bring recommendations to us at the ANC, and then we kind of push it upward, and then sometimes we'll have ideas or questions that we want you all to answer at the the committee level and come back to us. So welcome, and glad to be here.
All right, thank you. Randy Clark.
Hi, Randy Clark. I live in Van Ness East, and I'm the silent partner of Sandy Hoekster. She's supporting one of our local restaurants tonight.
Oh, good.
So she said she might come in late, but I wasn't counting on it. So I'm just here sort of to take notes. And if I start to say anything, you probably should put me on mute.
Okay. Thank you. All right. And Barbara, with your iPhone, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Barbara Bates. I live in Van Ness North Co-op, and I'm liaison to your group from the Parks and Watershed subcommittee. And just to note, I think the work is going to start on Soapstone in August, and it'll start in the parking lot of Van Ness East. So anyway, that's the news.
Good to know. Thank you. Next on my screen anyway would be Julia.
Hi.
Hi, Julia.
I'm Julia Stevenson, and actually I'm very new. You're maybe days younger than me, but I'm very new to this committee as well. So I'm feeling my way a little bit, but everybody's been extraordinarily welcoming, and it's such important work. I'm really impressed with everybody who's been on this committee. Before I joined, I'm astonished by all that you've been involved in, and that you've helped bring about the improvements that benefit everybody. So I'm excited and happy to be on the committee. I live on Albemarle Street, east of Connecticut, and I'm a native Washingtonian. I was born in DC. I lived in Cleveland Park, though. That's where I grew up. And since I've been married, first on Jennifer Street and now Albemarle's been about 15 years, maybe, I think. Anyway.
Thank you. Who have we missed? Kathy? Yes.
I'm here.
Hi, Kathy.
And I've been in the neighborhood 25 years, but I've been on this committee, I think about a year or so.
Probably.
I had been a volunteer on Van Ness Main Street Design Committee, where I've been, I think, involved in some of the work that had to do with everything from art design to gardening. And but I used to work, I'm retired from the Environmental Protection Agency, and I have a strong interest in smart growth, and I love incredible leadership of this committee that's really working to make our community a better place to live.
Good to hear. Thank you. Eileen.
Sorry.
Sure.
I'm Eileen McCarthy, and I am the Ward 3 rep to the Pedestrian Advisory Council. I actually don't live in 3F, I live in 3C. But Bob lets me come and listen in, and he and David and I are on the Connecticut Avenue Community Advisory Council. So
Yes, as am I, which we'll talk about soon. And yes, and Eileen, thank you for mentioning that you are the involved with the pedestrian, what's it called? The Pedestrian Advisory
Council.
Yes. And you are not the only, I should say, liaison. I mean, we have Barbara from the other committee. You're here. Sometimes we have Marlene Berlin, who is with Forest Hills Connection, and I'm not positive she's in the ANC as a resident either. So
she is. I know where she lives, and she
is okay. Maybe she is. But at any rate, you know, so we have both sort of official members and then some liaisons, which is great. It's a public committee after all, so we're happy to have everyone. With that, and thank you for everybody, you know, introducing yourself. I guess it's a pretty short agenda, but of course, the big topic is our ongoing Connecticut Avenue safety study, which maybe that's the best place to start, really. At our last meeting, we devoted a lot of time to that because we were preparing for the February 24th meeting where DDOT came and talked to the ANC and did all that. And hopefully many of you were able to attend that. If you weren't, there were so many other DDOT meetings in the last few weeks, you probably got to one of those. But DDOT has been out, you know, in the community, up and down Connecticut Avenue with the business folks, with the ANCs, with a lot of other stakeholder groups, as they call us, talking about the study. And with that backdrop, a week or so ago, David and I talked a little bit, and he said, well, you know, maybe we need this committee to think about a draft resolution that might be offered to the ANC. So that's where I came in. I think you saw I drafted something. I have no pride of authorship. I am happy to take everybody's comments, questions, whatever. David helped me out a little bit. And, you know, I think I'll just say that it is intended to do sort of three things, I guess. Of course, the whereas clauses kind of lay out where we've been and such. But it's the resolved clauses that are the big, you know, the what do the work in these resolutions. And it may have been a little subtle, but it's trying to do two things at the same time. The resolution is picking up on the fact that DDOT has identified in this study many, what I think they call them potential corridor improvements that they have said they could implement regardless of what choices are chosen. So David and I, anyway, thought that this is a golden opportunity to tell DDOT, those are a lot of good ideas, you know, maybe we could get some of those separate from, apart from, in addition to whatever the study outcome. So that the resolution says, go for it, you know, do these good things, even regardless of what option you choose down the road. And then the other part of the resolution is, by the way, you know, and we discussed this at our last meeting, it looks like the option that has the bike lanes and takes away the reversible lane probably is the most consistent with the study's goals. And so, you know, if that turns out to be the consensus of the ANC, that would kind of be the recommendation going forward to DDOT. That's what it does. I'm ready for discussion. David, would you like to say more about it since you helped out?
Yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot to say except to kind of restate what I said earlier, is that we are, you know, part of the, I think the committee function, this is kind of more of a process. What I'm going to say is more about process than actually sort of what is really looking to you all. You know, we've got this Connecticut Avenue study that's been going on for a while. The committee's weighed in before on other kind of transportation policy matters. And so from where I sit as an ANC commissioner, I'd want to know, you know, what does the committee think about the Connecticut Avenue study, and as Bob kind of laid out. So I figured this would be a good place to start. You know, if there was a draft resolution, it would, you know, I think, again, from where I sit, it would ideally come from you all. And then we would, if it's, you know, you all look at it and, you know, bless it more or less, then we would put it out there, you know, we'd put it out there for, you know, for ANC 3F to consider. So that's I don't really have much more to say to it than that.
That makes sense. Yeah, yeah. No, thank you. Does anybody, did anybody have a chance to take a look first of all, anybody have any ideas, please?
I have a
Yes,
question.
Oh,
Does
yes.
concept C include 2 bike lanes?
Yes, it does, on one on each side of the street.
Right, okay, thank you.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Kathy.
I think it's excellent. I only had 2 words to only do impetus. It's really funny. It's
2 words.
it's where I'm going to insert after as soon as possible. And the recommendation at the bottom that you've got in the short term as many of the corridor safety improvements
Yes.
as soon as possible. I wanted
Maybe
to
we missed
add
an as. All right, as soon as possible. Yeah.
Oh, you got it in the short term as many of them. This was a little bit more urgent because they can reduce the speed and they can stop the reversible lanes now.
Yeah. No, that.
And I don't know if you want in the short term. I would just say as soon as possible because I don't want it to be that they take it back. I mean,
Right. No, I like that. I like that suggestion. I would say if anyone has, word changes and suggestions, send them along to me. They probably will not conflict with each other, so we can, implement them all. And then, I'm assuming that unless there's like major opposition here, we'll probably send it forward to the ANC with our kind of general, gentle suggestion that they look further into this. So. Yes.
I have a neophytes question here.
Yes, please.
So concept C, and I see that there were concept alternatives, a series of them that were developed. And is there a cross-reference to what concept C is somewhere?
There probably should be. We're all sort of been in this maybe a little too close to this. You're probably right. We should maybe lay that out a little clearer what it is, or a parenthetical that kind of sets out what it means. Is that what
would
you're
be great.
getting at?
I mean, I'm sure it's perfectly lovely.
Well, it depends on your perspective, I suppose. But there are many options that DDOT has laid out, and you probably have not had the chance to delve into all this. But they've got about 6 sort of on the table. However, they've really sort of informally narrowed it down to 2. And the basic choices are this sort of more I guess you would call forward-looking with the bike lane, et cetera. And then more of a kind of status quo approach where all they would do is take out the reversible lane and still have the rush hour parking and restrictions and all that. So
and,
that's kind of,
and you might want to say they narrowed it down just based on the criteria that we had laid out that you can see at the beginning of this resolution. I mean,
yes.
PDOT says here's our criteria, and these other proposals that we had didn't meet them. Is that
right?
Okay.
Right. We might be able to put a finer point on that actually in some of the whereas clauses.
I myself have personally witnessed 2 car flips.
Who am I hearing? Oh, sorry. I missed that. Who? Oh, David.
Oh, it's
yes.
fine.
No, I think you were hearing Barbara,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but David does have his hand up.
All right, Barbara, did we miss something you said? I was talking over you. I'm sorry.
Not me, no. I didn't
Okay.
say-
It was just something confusing me. All right. Well, David, you have your hand up, so please. Yes.
Yeah, I think I guess I want to make sure that this is the chance if something isn't sitting right with how it's worded or what I really want to kind of push you, and I guess I'm I mean, I know my position, or I know my, sort of what I'm interested in, what my position is, but I really want, to hear from you if you have concerns, or another way of saying is like, what's the, where's this weak? And I think Allison, you made a good point about, let's provide a little more context to what C is, and Kathy, you added, what C is, not only what C is, but how it meets the other goals. I want to, because I think when this gets out in the public, we're gonna get, we're gonna get the people coming at us. I think I really want to make sure that you all, or we all, are really solid on kind of what this is, And if there's any heartburn, tension, question, this is the time to really kind of get it out. And if, again, so that's my ask. And Allison, you're the new person, so that's really good that you're asking the kind of question you are, because as Bob said, we're sort of, kind of in this, and there may be things that we don't see. And it's really important for us to sort of, have vision that kind of is peripheral as possible. I wish I had eyes behind my head, but that's not going to happen. Maybe Eileen will, or Barbara will take that role. But when Julia, you're pretty new. I mean, again, if there's something that's jumping out, this is the time to kind of hash it out.
Yes, Kathy.
I'm sorry. Well, one thing that, apropos of what David said, I mean, the one thing I would do to sell this is, if we know that there's opposition for certain things, then maybe we need to dispel why we disagree with that. I'll throw out an easy one. I think that, I don't have the numbers right, but I think, has traffic gone down by 50% because of COVID?
Roughly.
The thing is
right
that
now.
there have been some surveys, some professional surveys saying that, it may be that, and again, what that percentage is, only 40% of workers or workplaces are saying that they're going to probably have people go back to work, that maybe 60% will never leave the working from home, because and people who were worried about this, said that, guess what, it's been working, and so we're going to continue this. We don't have to pay for a building. So for all those good reasons, it's not like we've got this thoroughfare way that has to have cars zipping through. There was another statistic that I don't know if we need that data to help say that this makes our case for selecting C. Another thing was that there's about 40% of the traffic that moves through Connecticut Avenue are people moving. They're through traffic. They're not going to do any business in our neighborhood, and so they're just moving through the community. And whether that then says, and that's why we, would prefer not to have these reverse lanes, because we've got many people who maybe only use this once in a while, and they get confused, and that's why I'm making a bunch of assumptions on why things don't go well. But I don't know if those are statistics or data that we do have that can make our case greater, or for how things have changed. We recognized from DDOT's presentation too about the assumptions and the models that they had couldn't take a lot of these new realities into their models. And so therefore, maybe we need to put it in here. I don't know. I'm not saying that making it longer is better, and whether it's a different venue of more like a myths, facts and myths page that we produce, a one pager, or if it's more important to put it in this document that's more policy related. I don't know, but that was the only thing I thought of that could make it stronger with more information from what we gathered from ours.
Yeah. Anybody? Oh, Julia, yes.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think, I actually love, one of the things I love about this draft is that you not only reiterate the important components of Plan C, which we all, I think mostly, if not everybody, feels very strongly about. And so it's important to have that boldly restated in the draft, that we don't want these lost, we don't want these elements dropped away. Like some of these, going up to it, all of things like the hybrid beacons, this reducing the speed limit, all of that kind of thing it's all of a piece. It's all, we want that present in whatever plan is adopted. And so it's good. I like that you highlight those. I also, though, because I listened to to a number of DDOT presentations in various forums, different ANCs and the like, and it was interesting how many people, people get frustrated with the length of time this takes, and you all must be more aware of that than I am, because you've been shepherding these through for a long time. But it is great that there is the potential of doing some of these things immediately. And Kathy was, I just support what Kathy was saying, that these, if you give voice to the fact that these can be done now and not waiting for the continuation of the study, and then I guess it's an environmental impact study maybe, and then they have to go for funding and all of that. It's a very long time. And you could hear the frustration in some people's voices who were excited about the potential here, which is tremendous, but then thinking it's so long down the road. But these things that we can implement that don't bear on construction, like I mean, I would love the bike lane. I'd love to snap my fingers and have it there, but there are a number of things that we could do, as you already noted, and as Kathy reiterated, that I think would go a long way to bringing everybody on board, because you could almost taste it instead of just thinking. I was at a meeting last night where this poor man was talking about a very different part of town. And he was excited because he thought the DDOT meeting that he'd gone to was going to be as impactful as this Connecticut Avenue study has the potential to be. And it isn't. It's because the DDOT has this program you're probably familiar with that they call short-term quick build projects and other near-term actions. Well, in a way, that's what we're asking for now. I mean, that's the limit of what DDOT was going to do in this Mount Pleasant area and extend it out, because they haven't instituted this huge study the way Connecticut Avenue has. So we have the study going, but then we can also do these short-term quick build projects that's in the lingo of DDOT to put in, which are things like reducing the speed limit and absolutely stopping reversible lanes, just keeping that going. And I think it's sort of like the first installment of what we hope to be the long-term installment of a brand new avenue. And so I really feel strongly that Kathy is inserting "do as quickly as possible" or whatever it was that said should be done.
Just 2 words.
Yeah, 2 words. And
as soon as possible.
I guess I might add, I remember, I don't know if it was just a suggestion in DDOT's proposal or its study. They talked about no right turn on red. Is that something that
I think that maybe Eileen knows more about that than anyone else here, but I thought that was already kind of in the works.
Are they going to
put
that in? Okay, because that is a huge. I mean,
I think that's separate. There's one is that DDOT has its own list of places where it either has or will put no turn on red. And then the council passed a bill last December, which among other things, and it did many things, but it has a list, basically not a list of specific locations, but a list of criteria that DDOT is to use to determine where no right on red goes. However, that bill's not funded yet. So to the extent DDOT needs funding for it, that won't happen till.
So that's, even though I think it was mentioned in Plan C, or else maybe.
Yeah, that I don't remember.
Okay, it could be that one of the DDOT people was responding to a question, but it came up several times. So it might not be part of C.
Did it deal with the bikes that they were talking about changing where the bus stops were for people turning right? Was that?
Yeah, they were
that
talking about
really?
putting the bikes, the bus stop on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
Rather than right at the end of the street where people are turning in front of a bus that's perhaps.
That's what I remember.
Or people riding their bike, yeah. That's part of the clarity of the street, I think, which I mean, that's a huge issue, which is almost, actually, before I get there, I'm wondering whether, I mean, I'm wondering if this gets to the point of trying to speak to the reservations that some people have when they're confronted with this plan, instead of seeing what it opens up and what it brings, they're stuck in this mindset of the priority of cars and making sure that cars have what cars need, which is a lot of space and a lot of parking and a lot of free lanes. But I've often wondered why there weren't more studies, outside studies that DDOT could link to. But I guess things that talk about how many people actually use local businesses more when they can walk to them and when they can ride their bikes to them. There are lots of studies that show that that's the case, and WABA has some studies about that too, I think. And I guess DDOT can't use those studies because it shows preference. And they sometimes, it seems like they're bending over backwards not to show preference for things. I mean, even though they did say B and C seem to fit their goals more than any of the others. But maybe we could have people who are worried that businesses will be deprived of business, and having come out of the pandemic suffering, maybe, this worries them. But if we show that, if we can attach a study that says that actually it says the opposite, that business usually is inflated from this kind of.
We might be able to see what some of the other organizations have cited. I don't know if DDOT has cited any of those types of studies yet, but it's worth thinking about. Anyway, what I'm hearing is that many of you are looking to strengthen the resolution a bit. So I got that point. Yes, Eileen.
I think the Ward 3 Bikes people are working on, and WABA are working on the businesses.
I think they are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
DDOT, the thing with DDOT is it really, what they pushed comes, in my experience, comes down to who's doing it, who's leading the study. So you could have somebody really forward looking at DDOT who is leading something, and they'll pull that sort of thing in. But I think, as we've seen in our meetings and in the ANC meetings that I've gone to, they are, and they got critiqued for this, that they did this whole level of service analysis that, in my view, they probably shouldn't even have done in light of what our Move DC goals are. But that's the mindset of the people who are leading this, is how I see it. They're also trying to, I think, respond to the criticism they think they're going to get from the car people.
Right. Right. Was there someone else with a hand up? No.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Barbara. Yes, please.
The issue of pedestrians and the hybrid beacons and hawk signals. What is that about?
Well, the hawk signals, I think, are like the one down in Cleveland Park. Is that the one that is a hawk signal? So it's the ones that let the pedestrians essentially turn the light red when they want to. Well, that's what a hawk signal is.
Oh. It's sort of,
well, it's kind of that. It's the timing thing too, but yes.
Yeah, it's like it will. It's usually for mid-block crosswalks, like the one in Cleveland Park, right. And it's where people have been crossing, and you push the button, and when it's convenient for drivers coming from other directions, they will insert a walk signal there. But it doesn't operate the same way as a full signal. It's like it goes yellow, then red, and it flashes, and thing means a different thing. I'm not the biggest fan of hawks, but yeah, on Connecticut Avenue, that's what you're going to get.
Right. Does that help you, Barbara?
That's not the same as the hybrid beacon though, right?
Yeah,
What
it
is a hybrid beacon? Do you know
It's
what
They're
that is?
similar. I
Hawk,
think they're
Hawk
similar.
is it's like it's an abbreviation, but it's it is the hybrid beacon.
I see.
What the other thing that some places have, but I don't think they put them on Connecticut Avenue, is a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. Which is that one, those I love. There's one on MacArthur Boulevard and there's a few in other places, and that is you push the button and it doesn't change lights, but it starts flashing. So it's sort of an extra warning to driver, but it will change immediately as soon as you push the button. It's just a way of highlighting the crosswalk there.
Right.
Good, thank you.
That actually, there is, I also, I've always wondered why there isn't a glossary of terms. There's, I mean, DDOT people often use the lingo, and it's, I mean, you know, you have to look it up, but I don't know why they don't attach a glossary of terms to each study proposal that they make. I mean, which is a little bit different from adding other studies, which I would like to see. But
traffic engineers aren't, generally speaking, are not people.
One thing I'm hearing, unless somebody else wants to speak up right now, please do if you want to talk. One thing I'm hearing is the idea that maybe the resolution, and I really intended it when I drafted it to be sort of bare bones. Maybe it's a little too bare bones. Maybe it needs a little extra here and there.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm getting feedback. So
I'm getting a little feedback too. Does someone?
I think we should all mute if we're not talking. I think that's probably that's an ask.
Yeah, maybe mute if you're not talking. Okay, yeah, the feedback is done. I don't think it was me, but it could have been.
Sorry.
Oh, anyway, as Kathy and Julia were talking, I was thinking about how the resolution doesn't really pick up on the fact that DDOT has already sort of reached some not so subtle conclusions that many of the adverse impacts are essentially what they call manageable. And I did not stress that at all in the resolution yet, but as a way of picking up on that kind of, you know, incipient opposition about certain things, I could bring some of that back in. The other thing that DDOT in its presentations has done is they have noted, and this is sort of like a backwards way of getting to this point, but they note that their models do not account for any kind of reduction in traffic because of COVID, any kind of reduction in traffic between now and the year 2045 for any other reason, or any what they call mode shift, any shift out of cars and to something else. And so all of that is as if to say, even based on the worst case scenario DDOT can come up with, this looks like a workable option, you know, option C. So to the extent the resolution can essentially say, oh, by the way, if they look at it even with a slightly, you know, I don't know what the metaphor is here, glass slightly less full or something, that it's even more manageable than they're making it to look to all of us. So maybe we could get the resolution to have a flavor of that a little bit more. I'm sure you guys get what I'm talking about, but please jump in. I would also like to say, if anyone has language suggestions, send them to me. I'm all ears. We can work on the draft. Maybe I'll send around a new draft in a few days, and you can all look at it one more time.
Bob?
Yes.
Kathy? I unmuted myself. I didn't think you saw me. But I was going to say, specifically talking about one other little detail. I don't know specifically what adverse impacts you were talking about, other than maybe no changes in the mode transportation, like maybe fewer people will be buying cars and more people will be biking. I know we had that discussion at one point. What the last item on, whereas the study on the page where I thought we should add as soon as, it says adding pedestrian refuge islands and a protected bike lane. I mean, that I would build up more. I think that definitely is a traffic calming thing if we had meridians either for pedestrians to rest or to deter speedway, anything to pull it apart. And I would say, I know that at least on the call, the last one with DDOT, there were people that were concerned about having were interested in having designated lanes for buses, that there would be buses. And I don't know if there's anything that, that might upset people more. I'm not sure whether we lose more or gain more people for people who would be planning to use the bus more if they could. If any of the designs planned for C would preclude having a bus lane, and maybe it's not, and maybe it's really a simple answer, but just if that's possible to have that as a potential big multimodal transportation with a strong, great bus line or circular or whatever in the neighborhoods, that we might want to pull that out, but I don't know how people feel about that.
Just
Yeah,
one quick,
oh, sorry.
pardon me,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. No, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say DDOT has already told us that a bus lane is not really in the cards for Connecticut Avenue. It might be for some other avenue. Apparently that's a priority that they've already, fixed.
That's
So that's
true.
that's kind of a non-starter. But the other ideas, Kathy, we can weave some of that in.
I think
Sorry,
also-
Julia, and then I think David and anyone else who hasn't spoken, please jump in. Julia.
Actually, Eileen, you can go. I think you wanted
I was just going to add to what Bob said, that I think the reason DDOT said no bus lane is because Metro said we don't want a bus lane there. We want to work on someplace else.
Yeah,
So,
apparently I was happy to hear in one of the meetings, the DDOT people said they'd been talking to WMATA about what they wanted for Connecticut Avenue in a bus lane, and they said it's not a priority for them. And I guess they're not entirely, they're not entirely parallel, but I think because we have the Metro, the bus wants to emphasize other parts of the city that don't, like 16th Street and 14th Street, and that don't have a Metro to help anyway. But were you all saying that it might be a good idea to talk about how in these, I guess, levels of service modeling, LOS modeling they kept on referring to, it really, that, if I understood it correctly, that emphasizes automotive, it emphasizes cars, not other ways of getting around. And so that might be something to point out in our draft, that when you have a shift, when you reduce lanes for cars, it doesn't mean that there's less traffic. It's just the traffic takes a different form. It means that people choose buses, or they choose Metro, or they walk, or they bike. That will still be a vibrant avenue. It's just in a very different way, and that they also in their modeling, they really, as has been said, they didn't take into account what's going to happen. I mean, because nobody knows what's going to happen after the pandemic lifts, and but that's important to say, because I think a lot of people, when they're listening to DDOT present, they're thinking that this is real time, that these studies, they don't realize they were done necessarily. It's not actively in their head that they were done pre-pandemic, and that things are changing. Every once in a while, somebody will mention that, but it's like, because people need to be reminded that this is sort of old. This is old data in a way. It's not the. It kind of, everything is thrown open, and that there is something that's really true called traffic evaporation. That when you, I mean, it's almost what is that? It's the opposite. It's anti-intuitive that you actually, when you reduce lanes of traffic, it doesn't necessarily lead to more congestion, it means that traffic falls away, that that people really do figure out different ways that are better to get around, and that traffic evaporation doesn't even present itself in these DDOT studies, that they're just kind of thinking, given this number of cars, what's going to happen to them when these changes are implemented? Well, the number of given cars change is going to be different. And where they suggest these cars will go, which frightens a lot of people in surrounding neighborhoods, they're thinking of cars speeding through. That doesn't really happen. And even what they DDOT projected was minimal, it seemed to me, like for Reno or for Broad Branch or for Massachusetts as different ways to get downtown if Connecticut becomes insufferable to people in cars. It seems like it's minutes that the impact will be in terms of time. And it's so silly to get all a Twitter about, a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But I maybe just reiterating that this is old data, but this is
Okay.
not. I'm going on.
Yeah, no. I think that's it's a good point. And I think DDOT has recognized that, but they don't say it quite the same way we do. So maybe there's ways we can get this flavor into the resolution. If you didn't have any more thoughts right now, I was going to move to David, if that's okay. David?
Yeah, I have to simultaneously unmute and lower my hand.
Okay.
It's like walking and chewing gum, and
Yeah.
I walk first or chew gum first. Anyhow, sorry. So I guess another way to ask the question. So I think Julia, thanks for raising the kind of the spillover question. So what about let's talk about parking. What's your sense? Is parking an issue for you all? And since Allison, you're kind of a newbie, does parking matter to you in this study? And do you have any questions about that or concerns? And anybody else? But I want to kind of, since you're new, I'll kind of.
And we haven't heard from Randy either, I don't think. But yeah, I mean, we don't want to put you on the spot. Just if you have an opinion, please let us know.
Parking generally and
Connecticut? Just like, well, yeah, like taking, so what happens is if it's most of if you just like, let's just focus on the two options that DDOT seems to raise. One is really the option B, which says, we're not going to have reversible lanes, but we're going to have, I guess during rush hour, we're going to have 3 lanes in both directions, and then they're going to have parking. I guess off hours they're going to have parking. Is that right? Is that, Bob? Is that my memory?
Yeah, that is right. So in option B, it's like today,
right.
Except no reversible lanes.
Right, it's like it is today, except during rush hour in both AM and PM, you'll have 6 lanes, no parking, but then they'll bring the parking back overnight. Yep. And so option C, which is the bike lane option, which is, and again, I'll be transparent. It's the option I think is, I think for a lot of reasons that would be the option I would pick. But the consequence of that is you're going to remove parking along the residential parts of Connecticut Avenue, and then so that it's like and that'll be permanent for the residential areas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that a concern? And if so, kind of to what degree? And
yeah, it's not a huge concern to my mind. I mean, the times that parking seems of issue
on Connecticut Avenue itself is when there are neighborhood retail restaurants, what have you, that you'd like to see. You don't want to encumber their business prospects, be it, I've seen people get those Calvert Woodley parking spots are high value some evenings of the week. But if you want to sort of pull up and go in and grab your takeout or just, it's not a huge concern. I mean, I think there's a balancing of interests, and no, I don't have a big big concerns over if a bike lane was added. It's fine. I mean, it's not like there's an abundance of parking anyway right now, and this would be a radical change, you know, to add a bike lane. I think people are accustomed to having to, at least we are, of having to, well, so maybe you need to park and walk a bit. That's fine. You know?
Also in this concept C that they're proposing, they're actually planning to include parking on one side of the street
Mhm.
in each of the, I think, 4 commercial zones. So, you know, where they are, Cleveland Park, Van Ness, the next up by Politics and Prose, and then south is what, I guess, by the zoo, that area. So those 4 areas would include some parking and loading zones, and, you know, I think hopefully help the businesses with that issue a bit. Yeah. Any other
Well,
comments?
I thought there,
Please.
I thought that some of the neighborhoods did informal parking surveys of their areas. I think Marlene did one, I thought, for this area, and that during the Chevy Chase ANC meeting, they mentioned a parking survey that they've done to sort of show, you know, off-street parking. I mean, not on Connecticut Avenue, but the side streets. There are some lots and the like, and just side streets, and maybe, I mean, that if people just are, it's not just Connecticut Avenue that offers places for people to park. I mean, maybe those surveys can be mentioned if they're, maybe they're a couple of years old. I think Marlene's was a couple of years old.
Yes. I have already encouraged, because I'm on this community advisory council, I've already encouraged the project team to get better information about the parking, not just the parking on Connecticut Avenue, but the private parking that is available at various parts of the avenue, mostly in the business areas, as well as getting a little more information about the side streets. And there are a few slides that they have not been showing, I think, in their presentations, that have more of this information on them. So I'm hoping that DDOT will start to reveal some of that information. But yes, when you start to really drill into, parking is not just on Connecticut Avenue, there's different types of parking. I think you do get a little bit of a different perspective on how it could affect a business interest. So that's important. Thank you for raising that. Does anyone else have any ideas for how to strengthen or take apart or whatever this resolution?
Well, I have another question about the
Barbara.
bus stops. They're not changing those, are they?
You know, Barbara, it's not completely crystal clear what, I mean, they're not going to delete bus stops. No, they're not taking any away. There may be a plan to move a few of them a little bit, just to sort of facilitate the way traffic moves or the way the bike lanes might work. And I haven't studied this aspect of it very well. Maybe
there's a more general move beyond Connecticut Avenue to move bus stops that are at the end of one block to the beginning of the next.
Yes.
And it's a pedestrian safety issue generally, that they want prefer the pedestrian crossing behind a bus as opposed to crossing in front of a bus.
Yeah.
On Connecticut, that wouldn't make that much difference because, you know, most of the time it's going to be at a signal. But
Yeah.
that's a general move, not specific to this.
Yeah. Any other questions about the bus stops? I think it is a really important issue, and it is part of the study. So I would encourage you to look at the information that's on the project website. There's different slide presentations, and some of them deal with bus stops. So but I can also send that around. Anything else? Yes, Eileen and Kathy.
Okay, so one of the things that I've been thinking about, and it's like, this is a hard thing to phrase, but, and I'm not sure it's right for the resolution, but I'll just throw it out there.
Okay.
I think one of the things that I hear is that, older people can't possibly walk to the stores they need to walk to, that they need to drive their cars there and they need parking spaces. And, generally what I think about that is that there comes a time in everybody's life when they need to stop driving.
Yeah.
And a lot of older people, including older people in my family, are really bad about recognizing that.
Mm.
And I wonder if there's a positive way to state something like that, that this is a way of planning for a future where people who need to stop driving can stop driving and have other ways of getting there, whether it's by, people who can't drive may be able to ride a bicycle or even a tricycle there. Maybe we need shuttle services in the neighborhood to take people to stores when they can stop driving. And I know the latter goes outside the realm, but I wonder if there's a way to say something like that, to say we need to be thinking about a future where people need to stop driving.
Well, if I
Go ahead.
I can piggyback on what Eileen said, I totally agree, and I think sure there's language with dealing with smart growth and complete streets where it's really I think focusing on just the pedestrian benefits from the changes, pulling out everything from safer bus stops to safe lanes for people who can still bike, for people of all ages, that we are making all modes of transportation safer because of X, Y, and Z or whatever. But I think that that's a really important thing because, there's people who are too poor to buy cars or afford cars in this neighborhood. There's people who are older who have to stop or don't want to, but they end up doing that. And, people may walk, and if it's more safe when we don't have bikes and scooters on the sidewalks too, that make it a safe place. So we could be focusing on the positive aspects of the safety, not just in the street, but on the sidewalks. That might be something that we would pick up on, as well as having the options for public transportation that reduces the greenhouse gas emissions, climate change. And we could bring in those bigger issues and I think I texted in the message too, making a point of I lost my train of thought, but I was going to say something about that this is beneficial for so many people in so many different ways that you may not even notice the benefits. I lost my train of thought.
I like that idea. I wrote some notes while you were talking. I think some way of getting some of these points in, we could try some more whereas clauses mainly. Randy, did you?
Yeah. I don't know if anybody has done a survey with the business. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, okay. I, for one, am relying a lot more on, and it just came spontaneously during the virus, on delivery systems. And in fact, I think Cleveland Park Wine and Liquor probably is getting more business from me from deliveries than they were getting when I was walking in and buying one or two or maybe 3 bottles of wine. And the same thing is true with streets. I'm relying, and I go in and do some shopping just for the fun of it. But I'm curious about if somebody's surveying this point with the business people, say for instance along Cleveland Park or the others, how much are they benefiting from increased deliveries? And this, of course, and part of it is, after this is all said and done, we probably need to support our businesses and suggest that people really seriously consider the deliveries, because it turns out to be very easy to do all of your grocery shopping at streets. And, I bought a case of wine today from Tony Quinn in the Cleveland Park. So in the past, as I said, I would buy like 1 or 2 bottles, just what I could carry. So I don't know if this is being surveyed, but I think this should be background information. I don't know. I don't see that it fits anywhere in this draft, but Yeah, anyway, that was what I was thinking about. Older people, like 78-year-old men who have bad backs.
It's a good point. I've been doing a lot more delivery service lately too. I'm not sure how we can weave it into the resolution, but yeah, let's think about all of this.
Well, it should be in the business surveys.
Right, in the business survey, yeah.
I think the business people probably aren't aware, haven't thought about it that much themselves.
Yeah, DDOT is trying to survey the businesses. I'm not sure how much success they've had lately with that, but it's ongoing. Does anyone else want to jump in with any points? We're getting towards 8 o'clock and I don't like to keep people later, so I think we might want to wrap it up. Yes, please.
Kathy, I remembered my thought that went out of my head. It was
Yes,
just that I was going to say that on balance, somehow when we talk about on balance, there'll have to be some trade-offs, but on balance, that this makes the most sense to the most, the people from all different modes of transport. But this, the weight of the evidence for all populations in a community that cares about all of the people who move around in this community, this choice C, it makes the strongest case. That was what I was trying to say.
Okay.
There will be trade-offs. We'll pretend it's 100% gold, perfect system, and obviously the implementation will be seen, but that we could at least say on balance, this really has so many beneficial things that will help many people who walk, who bike, and maybe I can even say, and who drive. It will be a safer road to be on.
Okay, I will try to weave some of this into a new draft, but please, if any of you have actual, sentences that I can work with, send them to me and I'll do what I can. And David will see it too. And I think the idea is within the next couple of days, I'll just turn another draft around to all of you. You can have another, look at it. And unless we're totally uncomfortable, I think the consensus seems to be we move it to the ANC as next. We'll offer it as this committee's general product, so to speak, and then it'll take on a life of its own at that point. Right, David? What happens after we send it to you?
So yeah, thanks. I was gonna raise my hand, but yeah. So from the process, so there's hopefully you all, whether it's consensus or whatever, this is okay as a really good draft. We want to present it. We want next Tuesday, a week from last night. We want to have this draft for discussion and just announce that, hey, this is, you all, we all have done a lot of work on this, and here's a draft resolution, and let's put it out for the 3F community. And at the April meeting, we will, the ANC 3F will take a vote on a resolution, which hopefully will be some version of what you all have seen and are working on. Because I think that's what we want to do. And I know, just because I talked to my colleagues, and so I know ANC 3C, which is the Cleveland Park to the south, they're interested in a resolution, and the people to the north of us, which I guess is 3-4G, they're interested, they want to do something. And imagine the people in Woodley Park, whatever ANC that is, I should know, but I don't. They're going to do something, because I think really this is kind of back, at least when I started getting involved with you all, this is really an opportunity to do something different that, hopefully makes Connecticut Avenue a better transit corridor, for everybody. And I think this notion that DDOT's got in terms of safety is really important. And I've got people in my building at Tilden Gardens, and they're getting, as they're aging, they've got walkers, and they don't move as fast, and you got scooters and bike share and bikers on the sidewalk, and that's just these are accidents that are waiting to happen. And me as a cyclist, I'm comfortable with the status quo. I can go down Connecticut Avenue, I can go with the flow, I can go with traffic, I can protect myself. The bike lane's not really for me. It's really, again, how do we make Connecticut Avenue safer for more people? And part of it's the bike lanes, and part of it's slowing it down. And hopefully that this will, this will make it a better Connecticut Avenue for everybody. And again, including the businesses. So I don't know if that's kind of a long-winded answer on process, but I imagine, I know something else with the timing is, there's this community meeting that's coming up. I think the notice has gone out today. I don't know, Bob, if you got that, and other people have seen it, but so on March 30th and April 1st is really their DDOT's come all for the study. And then after that, that's when I think the whole politicking, whatever you want to call it, lobbying will start. And I know, again, for those of us that are optimistic about government, whether it's DDOT or whoever, this is an opportunity to kind of, make some, what we think is positive change. So hopefully this will happen, and there'll be some, DDOT will adopt something, and it'll go through the process, and it'll get funding behind it. And that's, don't let you all go without me talk about money. But again, I think this is an opportunity to really do something different and make it better, and hopefully easier for Kathy to plant more flowers. And so I don't know. So
Thank you, David.
That helps.
I realized that there was one other item on the agenda, and I want to give Julia just a couple minutes if she is willing to tell us what's going on with Broad Branch Road right now, because that's been a big
Gosh,
deal.
I was thinking, I thought, rather than take time, because
Or
it has.
Maybe you could write us something.
I could write, yeah, it's just, whatever you want, I can, it'll
Why
take
don't
2 minutes to say, or I can just write it. It
if
doesn't.
you wouldn't mind giving us a little written summary maybe, and just,
Sure.
send it around to everyone, because I know that there was a sort of a halting development. It looked like there was something happening, and then they kind of took it back or whatever.
Yeah. It was
Maybe you could.
premature. It was
Yeah.
just it was a jump ahead that wasn't quite in place yet to jump ahead. That's all.
Okay.
That's-
All right. Well, if you
It's
wouldn't
not
mind
derailed
giving
or
us
anything. Yeah,
Oh, pardon me. I didn't.
it's not derailed. Yeah.
Not derailed. Good.
Not
Okay. Well, if you wouldn't mind doing a little written note to all of us, just telling us where we are, then that'll bring us up to speed. But I think we should probably stop our meeting now, because we are at 8:05. So thank you all. Does anyone have any parting comments? Okay. I'm all ears. All right. Well, thank you all for being here, and I'll probably see some of you at the ANC meeting.
Wait. Hold
Yes,
on.
David. Yes.
Sorry. So money.
Money. What about money?
Remember, I've asked all committees. This is the FY22 DC budget season.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yes.
And so.
So our committee needs a lot of money?
Well, no. Well,
no.
That's my default is yes.
Yeah, sure.
No, it's really so. This is the budget season, and Department of Transportation controls a lot of money. So if this is an ask of you. You don't have to, but if you could look at the budget and look at what the needs are, and figure out is there something that again should come from the ANC vis-a-vis
I see.
my 22 budget requests, because I've asked housing and neighborhoods,
Okay.
parks and wetlands, streets and sidewalks, and there's a new schools and universities committee, and it's budget season. Mayor's going to release her budget. I think it was supposed to come out at the end of the month. End of March is coming out in April now because of all the stimulus and the COVID-19 money. But if the committee has an opinion about how the DC spends its transportation dollars, it's just the opportunity to do so. You don't have to. You can. We'll focus on this. I know everybody's busy, but if there are any brain cells left for money, this would be a time to do it.
Is there a draft that exists, or a link that you can send us that kind of prompts us about what to think about on the transportation side of things?
I'll do two things. I'll send you. If I was better in the chat, I could figure it out. But what I'll do is
later.
I'll send you the link to the budget document or the kind of overview, and then I'll send you what we did last year for the resolution for the Housing and Neighborhoods Committee, which focused on housing programs. So you can kind of see what sort of
Okay.
things we looked at and what level of detail, and then
Okay.
you can look at it and you can say, we'll think about it, or there's too much and maybe next year.
Okay. And I will probably send out a call to all the committee members to take a look at that and give feedback if we can. How's that? All right, we will. Thank you. Okay, with that, I think we've come to the end. I will send that resolution back around with some of your good thoughts in it, I hope. And enjoy the spring weather. It's looking good out there, right? Okay. Bye, everyone.
You too. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Turn it.